Hey guys, so today we're going to be able to look at our unit circle and we're going to be able to use our unit circle to find sine, cosine, and tangent. Now, this video is really much more of a crash course into this. We're not going to dive too much into the background of why these things are, okay? So if you're in class, there will be a few things I say in this video that should trigger some memories, but I'm not going to take time to really show you the triangles and how that plays out into everything like we did in class, okay? So here's our unit circle, all right? And we took a couple days in class to actually develop this entire unit circle, okay? Now, I want you to think about something. If you were to put down the 30, 60, 90 degree triangle, then I'd have this triangle right here, okay? And this angle right here would be the 30 degrees and it would be a right triangle, okay? So then we could say that sine of 30, well, remember, we're doing this 30 degrees right here. Sine of 30, well, what is sine usually equal to? Opposite over hypotenuse. But when we constructed those triangles, we said that the hypotenuse was length 1. So then sine 30 is really just equal to opposite over 1, because we know the hypotenuse is length 1. And then we really just know that sine 30 is equal to the opposite side. Well, what's the opposite side? Well, that's the vertical length, which in this case is 1/2, because y'all know that y is up and down. How far you go up and down, that's your vertical length. So it's 1/2. So sine of 30 is equal to 1/2. What if you consider about that same thing, but instead for sine of 60? Well, you notice it would be the same thing. That sine of 60 would be square root of 3 over 2. Now think about cosine. Let's go back to our triangle we just did. And I know this triangle isn't making much sense. You're going to really have to kind of think back to what we did in class. Okay? But think about cosine of 30 instead. Well, cosine, in general, is equal to the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. But once again, we know the hypotenuse is length 1. So cosine of any angle is really just equal to the adjacent side. Well, what's the adjacent side from this angle? Well, that's this length right here. That's your running length. That's your horizontal distance. That's just your x value at 30 degrees, which is square root of 3 over 2. So cosine of 30 is just equal to square root of 3 over 2. And you'll find this true all around the circle. Basically, guys, what I'm trying to say is that sine is equal to the y values around the unit circle, and cosine is equal to x values around the unit circle. Okay? Because we knew that sine was really equal to the opposite of the hypotenuse, but the hypotenuse is just length 1. So opposite divided by 1 is just opposite. And adjacent of our hypotenuse, well, that was just going to be the adjacent. So then what is tangent equal to? Well, tangent is equal to opposite over adjacent, which in this case would be y over x. So when looking at my unit circle, okay, so here's the breakdown of what I'm trying to get you to do today. Sine of any angle around the unit circle is just equal to the y value at that point. Cosine of any angle on the unit circle is just equal to the x value at that point. Tangent of any angle is equal to the y divided by x value. All right, so then for example, what do I mean by that? Well, sine of 210. Well, sine of 210 is equal to, you're going to go look at 210 degrees. That's right here. You're going to look at the y value. It's negative 1/2. So sine of 210 is negative 1/2. So then so let's say sine of 330. Well, sine of 330, you go to your unit circle, 330, you look at the y value. Okay, it's negative 1/2. I keep choosing the ones that ends up being negative 1/2. But what if I had instead said sine of 300? So sine of 300, once again, you go look at the 300 degree on your unit circle, which is right here, and it's going to be negative square root of 3 over 2. So the idea that I'm trying to get to you is that sine is simply the y value on the unit circle, and cosine is simply the x value. So cosine of, I don't know, I'm making this up, 150 is equal to negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay, and cosine of, let's do 180. We haven't done any of those yet. Cosine of 180 degrees, well, go to your unit circle. Cosine of 180, the x value would be negative 1. So sine is y, cosine is x, and tangent is y divided by x. Let's dive into this whole y divided by x thing. Okay? Let's just dive that in. Sorry if you already saw the answer, but let's dive right into this whole y divided by x thing. Alright, So tangent of 120. Well, first, before I do this, I need to know what is the xy coordinate pair at 120 degrees. It is negative 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. So at 120, it was negative 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. Okay, and we know that tangent is equal to y divided by x. So in this case, y, which is square root of 3 over 2, divided by x, which is negative 1/2. So now I just divide fractions. To divide fractions, you keep the numerator the same. So square root of 3 divided by 2. You go from division to multiplication, and you flip the second fraction. Alright, now I multiply across, so it's going to give me negative 2 square root of 3 over 2, because 2 times 1 is just 2. The 2's cancel, and you're left with just negative square root of 3. And there you go. Alright, let's go on to our next example. Alright, so in this one, I say tangent of 45. Well, it's tangent, so I need to know the y and x are. Square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. So I can say square root of 2 over 2, that's what y was at 45 degrees, divided by square root of 2 divided by 2. Well, if you have something divided by itself, what is that equal to? Just 1. So tangent of 45 is just 1. Alright, well, what if you have tangent of 210? Okay, well, first again, since I'm doing tangent, sorry, this is a really sloppy video. I should have already had all this stuff cleaned up. But tangent of 210, go back to the unit circle. Negative square root of 3 over 2, comma negative 1/2. So we have negative square root of 3 over 2, comma negative 1/2. Okay, so y divided by x, so that's going to be equal to a negative 1/2 divided by negative square root of 3 over 2. Well, what did we just talk about when we're dividing fractions? That's right, we keep the numerator. We change from division to multiplication, and we flip the denominator. Okay? So I can say that negative 1 times negative 2, the negatives make a positive, so it's just 2, over 2 times square root of 3, so I just write 2 square root of 3. Now, the 2's get to cancel, but your numerator doesn't disappear, so you write 1 over square root of 3, because 2 divided by 2 is 1. Alright, hopefully a red flag is going off, and you're like, I can't leave a square root in the bottom. So I multiply by square root of 3 over square root of 3 to get rid of the square root. So that gives me square root of 3 over 3. Alright, a couple other things I want to point out before I wrap this short video up for you. What if you did tangent of 270? Well, tangent of 270 would be negative 1, because that's the y value, divided by 0. Can you divide by 0? No. So tangent of 270 would be undefined. But what about tangent of 180? Well, tangent of 180 would be 0 divided by negative 1, which is just 0. So tangent of 180 is 0. So be aware that tangent can also have an undefined answer and a 0 answer. Alright guys, I tried to make that video short and sweet and to the point. Please let me know what questions you have. Thanks.